Nobody laughed when someone mentioned the human ghosts. Not anymore. Advisor SYNN of the Pelori delegation learned this lesson on the diplomatic station called Harmony Crossing. He was eating his evening meal in the common area when a group of young aliens at the next table started joking about humans. They called them soft, weak, a species from a tiny blue world with nothing special about them. An old Kathrani merchant named Dross slammed his drinking cup on the table. The sound made everyone go quiet. "You children know nothing," Dross said. His 4 eyes narrowed with memory. "You have never seen what their ghosts can do." SYNN had heard the name before. Ghosts. The humans called their elite soldiers by this strange word. The Terran Special Operations Command was the official name, but nobody used it. Everyone just called them ghosts. "What are they?" one of the young aliens asked. His voice had lost its mocking tone. Dross did not answer. He simply stood up and walked away, leaving his meal unfinished. SYNN became curious. He started asking questions. Most species refused to talk about the ghosts. Those who did speak only shared pieces of stories. A siege that ended in 6 minutes. A rescue that should have been impossible. Enemies who surrendered before a single shot was fired, simply because they heard the ghosts were coming. 2 days later, SYNN met a human for the first time. Captain Ava Reyes served as a military liaison on Harmony Crossing. She was not tall. Her brown hair was cut short and practical. She smiled politely when introduced to SYNN and shook his hand with a grip that was firm but gentle. "You are one of the ghosts?" SYNN asked. Something changed in her eyes. Just for a moment. Then it was gone. "I was," she said. "Now I push papers and attend meetings." SYNN found this hard to believe. This small, quiet woman did not look like the terrifying warrior from the stories. She looked like someone who might teach children or grow flowers in a garden. That same night, everything changed. A distress signal arrived at Harmony Crossing. A Concord research vessel had been attacked and captured by the Vorix Syndicate. The Vorix were pirates. They were large reptilian creatures with no mercy and no fear. They had taken 200 hostages, including 3 important ambassadors. The Vorix leader sent a message to the entire Concord. He called himself Warlord Kreth. "You have 18 hours, Kreth announced. His scaled face filled every screen on the station. "Send us 50 million credits. Send us safe passage through Concord space. Or we will kill every hostage, one by one, starting with your precious ambassadors." The Concord High Council met in emergency session. SYNN watched from the observation gallery as they argued. The nearest military fleet was 6 days away. Negotiations would fail because the Vorix never negotiated. Some council members wanted to pay the ransom. Others said this would only invite more attacks. "We have no good options," the council speaker said. His voice was heavy with despair. SYNN noticed Captain Reyes standing near the back of the chamber. She had been listening quietly. Now she checked something on her communication device and slipped toward the door. No one else seemed to notice her leave. But SYNN did. He followed her into the corridor. She walked quickly, already speaking into a secure channel. "This is Reyes. Authorization code 77 Gamma. I need a direct line to the Relentless." She paused, then spoke again. "Colonel, we have a situation. 200 hostages. 18 hours. Vorix Syndicate." Another pause. "Yes, sir. I can provide full intelligence within the hour." SYNN stepped back into the shadows. His heart was beating fast. He did not understand everything she said, but he understood enough. The ghosts were coming. Reyes finished her call and turned around. She looked directly at the spot where SYNN was hiding. He had thought the shadows would conceal him, but her eyes found him instantly. "Advisor SYNN," she said. Her voice was calm. "You should go back to the council chamber. You called for help," SYNN said. "You're special soldiers." Reyes walked toward him. Up close, he could see something in her face that he had missed before. It was not anger or threat. It was focus. Complete and absolute focus. "In 18 hours, those hostages will either be free or dead," she said. "There is no middle option. The Vorix do not make empty threats. Can your people really save them?" Reyes smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen terrible things and carried them quietly. "Go back to the council chamber," she said again. "Watch the news feeds tomorrow morning. You will have your answer." She walked away without another word. SYNN stood alone in the corridor for a long time. He thought about the stories he had heard. He thought about the fear in Dross's eyes when he spoke the word ghosts. He thought about this small human woman who moved through crowds like she was invisible. Something was happening. Something the galaxy had seen before, but would never get used to. Somewhere out in the dark between stars, human soldiers were preparing to do what humans did best. They were going to war. 3-star systems away, Colonel Daniel Okonkwo was teaching his daughter to play chess. When the call came, he looked at the secure channel alert on his device. Then he looked at his daughter. She was 7 years old with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin. "Daddy has to go to work," he said. She nodded. She had learned not to ask questions. "Will you be home for my birthday?" "I will try." He kissed her forehead and walked out of their quarters aboard the TSS Relentless. By the time he reached the briefing room, his mind had already shifted. The father was gone. The soldier had arrived. Ghost Team 7 was waiting for him. 12 operators. The best humanity had ever produced. Sergeant First Class Rosa Medina sat cleaning her breaching charges. She was short and muscular with scars on her hands from a dozen operations. Master Sergeant Yuki Tanaka was checking her rifle scope for the 100th time. She could hit a target at 2,000 meters in zero gravity. Staff Sergeant Omar Hassan was reviewing medical supplies. He had saved more lives than he had taken, which was rare for a ghost. The other 9 operators filled the room with quiet focus. No one spoke. They all knew what the alert meant. Okonkwo activated the briefing screen. Captain Reyes appeared, transmitting from Harmony Crossing. "Vorix Syndicate has a Concord research vessel," Reyes said. 200 hostages. 3 ambassadors. 18 hours until executions begin. "Location?" Okonkwo asked. "Asteroid field in the Kroth system. They are using a converted cargo freighter as a mobile base. Approximately 80 hostiles. 18 hours is tight. The Relentless can make it in 16 if you push the engines." Okonkwo looked at his team. Not one face showed fear. Not one showed doubt. They had trained for this. They had lived for this. "Tell the captain to push the engines," he said. The Relentless jumped to faster-than-light speed 20 minutes later. The ship shook and groaned as the engines burned hotter than they should. No one complained. During the journey, Okonkwo walked among his team. He had served with some of them for 15 years. He knew their families, their fears, their hopes. He knew which ones prayed before missions and which ones told jokes to hide their nerves. Medina was sharpening a knife she had carried since her first deployment. "Colonel, you remember our first mission together? The mining station on Proxima. 40 hostiles. We were outnumbered 4-1. She smiled. "Good times." Hassan was reading over the intelligence files. "The Vorix Elite Guard uses plasma weapons. Short range, but nasty. I am packing extra burn treatment." "You always pack extra," Tanaka said. "You packed extra for a training mission last month. And you cut yourself on a broken door. You were happy I had the extra." This was how ghosts prepared. They joked. They talked about small things. They reminded themselves that they were human before they became weapons. Okonkwo found a quiet corner and pulled out his personal tablet. He had one message saved on it. A video from 10 years ago when he finished Ghost Selection. The instructor on the screen was old now, probably retired. But his words still echoed in Okonkwo's mind. "You have survived 2 years of hell. You have been broken down and built back up. You are now part of the most elite fighting force in human history. But remember this. Being a ghost is not about killing. It is about protecting. We do not fight because we love war. We fight because there are people who cannot fight for themselves. We become nightmares so that others can sleep peacefully." Okonkwo closed the video. He had watched it before every mission for 10 years. The Relentless dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Kroth system. 16 hours and 12 minutes since the Vorix made their threat. Less than 2 hours remained. The team loaded into their stealth insertion craft. It was small and black and made almost no heat signature. The Vorix would never see them coming. Okonkwo stood at the front of the craft as it detached from the Relentless. "Listen up," he said. 200 people are counting on us. They do not know we are coming. They have probably given up hope. We are going to give it back to them." He looked at each operator in turn. Rosa Medina with her explosives. Yuki Tanaka with her rifle. Omar Hassan with his medical kit. The others with their own tools of war. "We have trained for this 10,000 times. We have done this 100 times for real. Tonight is no different. We go in fast. We go in quiet. We bring everyone home." The craft slipped into the asteroid field. Somewhere ahead, 200 hostages were waiting to die. They did not know that death was coming for their captors instead. 18 hours to target, Okonkwo said. Get some sleep. When we arrive, we become what they fear. The ghosts closed their eyes and let the darkness take them. They would need all their strength for what came next. The asteroid field was a graveyard of rock and silence. Tanaka was the first to see the Voryx ship through her scope. It hung in the shadow of a massive asteroid, its lights glowing like the eyes of a predator. The converted cargo freighter was ugly and brutal, covered in weapons and armor plates welded on without care for beauty. Target confirmed. She whispered into her helmet radio. I count 12 guards on external patrol. Okonkwo studied the ship through his own optics. The Voryx had chosen their position well. The asteroid provided cover from long-range attacks. The patrol routes overlapped so that no blind spots existed, at least no blind spots that normal attackers could use. Tanaka, find your position, Okonkwo said. Medina, Hassan, you are with Alpha Team. We take the main cargo hold. Bravo Team takes the officer quarters. The stealth craft moved closer, using a captured Voryx transponder signal to appear friendly. It was a trick that would only work once. If the Voryx detected them, 200 hostages would die. Tanaka slipped out of the craft first. She wore a suit that masked her body heat completely. To Voryx thermal sensors, she would look like nothing more than a cold piece of space rock. She pushed off gently and floated toward an asteroid that gave her a perfect view of the ship's viewport windows. The journey took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of floating through vacuum with nothing but her rifle and her training. She did not hurry. Ghosts never hurried. Speed created mistakes. Mistakes created failures. Failures created body bags. When she reached her position, she anchored herself to the asteroid and settled into her shooting stance. Through her scope, she could see into the bridge of the Voryx ship. The warlord called Kreth was sitting in the command chair, laughing at something one of his officers said. Overwatch in position, Tanaka reported. I have eyes on primary target. Back on the stealth craft, Okonkwo was leading the final preparations. The team moved in complete silence. They had trained together so long that words were unnecessary. Hand signals and eye contact said everything. Medina attached breaching charges to her harness. Each one was shaped to blow inward, killing anyone standing near a door while leaving hostages on the other side unharmed. She had designed them herself after a mission where standard charges had caused collateral damage. Hassan checked his medical kit one last time. He carried enough supplies to treat 20 critical injuries. He hoped he would not need any of them. The craft attached to the Voryx ship's hull with magnetic clamps. The gentle thud was absorbed by the dampeners. No one inside would hear it. Okonkwo checked his chrono. 16 hours and 45 minutes since the deadline was given. 1 hour and 15 minutes remained. All teams report status, he said. Alpha ready. Bravo ready. Overwatch ready. Okonkwo took a slow breath. He thought about his daughter learning to play chess. He thought about his wife waiting at home. He thought about the 200 strangers on the other side of this hull who would either live or die based on what happened in the next few minutes. Then he stopped thinking about all of it. The father was gone. The husband was gone. Only the ghost remained. Inside the Voryx ship, Warlord Kreth was enjoying himself. His hostages were terrified. The Concorde was scrambling to meet his demands. By tomorrow, he would be rich and feared throughout the sector. No rescue is coming, he told his officers. The nearest Concorde fleet is 6 days away. We have one. His officers laughed and drank to their victory. None of them noticed the shadows moving along the hall. None of them saw the human soldiers taking positions at 6 different entry points. None of them knew that death was inches away, waiting patiently. Tanaka watched through her scope as Kreth raised his cup in celebration. Her crosshairs settled on his weapon hand. She would not kill him. Okonkwo wanted him alive for questioning, but she would make sure he could never hold a weapon again. Outside the main cargo hold, Medina placed her final breaching charge. Through the thin metal, she could hear crying. The hostages. They sounded exhausted and hopeless. Almost there, she whispered to herself. Just hold on a little longer. Hassan crouched beside the officer quarters entry point. His team was ready. 6 operators against estimated 20 guards. Bad odds for anyone else. Normal odds for ghosts. Okonkwo raised his hand. 3 fingers extended point, 3.2 fingers Point 2.1 finger point 1, his fist closed point 12 breaching charges exploded simultaneously. The sound was thunder. The light was lightning. The violence that followed was something the Vorax would never forget. The ghosts had arrived. The first Vorax guard died before he understood what was happening. Medina came through the breach like a force of nature. Her rifle spoke twice. 2 guards dropped. She moved left, clearing her corner. The operator behind her moved right. The operator behind him moved center. It was a dance they had performed 1,000 times in training. Now they performed it with live ammunition and real targets. The cargo hold was massive. 150 hostages sat in rows on the floor, their hands bound, their faces marked with tears and fear. 30 Vorax guards stood watch over them, spread throughout the space. The guards had been confident. They had been comfortable. They had been certain that no one could touch them. They were wrong. Alpha Team moved through the cargo hold like water flowing downhill. Each movement was efficient. Each shot was precise. Vorax guards fell one after another, their weapons never rising, their screams never finishing. Contact left, someone shouted. Medina spun and fired. A guard who had been hiding behind a cargo container collapsed. Clear left. The hostages watched in stunned silence. They had expected death. Instead, they saw something impossible. 12 humans were dismantling 80 Vorax pirates like children knocking down toys. In the officer quarters, Bravo Team faced heavier resistance. The Vorax elite guard had faster reflexes and better armor. They actually returned fire. Hassan felt a plasma bolt sear past his helmet. Close. Too close. He dropped to one knee and put 2 rounds through the shooter's chest. The elite guard's armor held against the first round but cracked under the second. He fell. Bravo Element, push forward, the team leader commanded. The 50 hostages in the officer quarters included the 3 ambassadors. They were the primary targets. Everything depended on reaching them alive. Hassan moved through the smoke and chaos with calm purpose. A wounded elite guard tried to grab his ankle. He kicked the hand away and kept moving. No time for mercy. No room for hesitation. On the bridge, Warlord Kreth finally understood what was happening. Alarm screamed. His officers shouted confused orders. Through the viewport, he saw a muzzle flash on a distant asteroid. The officer beside him fell with a hole through his skull. Snipers! Kreth roared. Get away from the windows. Another flash. Another officer down. Tanaka worked her rifle with mechanical precision. She could not see through the ship's inner walls, but she knew the layout from the intelligence files. She knew where officers would stand. She knew where they would run. She was not just shooting at targets. She was hurting them, pushing them toward the corridors where Bravo Team waited. Kreth ran for the engine room. 2 of his personal guards followed, dragging hostages with them. Human shields. It was his only chance. Secure the hostages. Okonkwo ordered through the radio. I am pursuing primary target. He moved alone through the darkened corridors. The ghosts had cut power to the non-essential systems. Emergency lights cast everything in red shadow. Perfect conditions for a human predator. Kreth's guards heard footsteps behind them. They turned and fired blindly into the darkness. Plasma bolts splashed against walls and melted metal. They hit nothing. Okonkwo had already moved. He was above them now, crawling through a maintenance duct. The Vorax never thought to look up. Why would they? Their own species could not fit in such small spaces, but humans could. In the cargo hold, Medina reached the last group of hostages. A young Pelori female was sobbing, convinced she was about to die. Look at me, Medina said. Her voice was firm but kind. We are human. We are here to take you home. Do you understand? The Pelori looked up with wide eyes. Humans? Yes. Stay down. Stay quiet. This will be over soon. Around her, the last Vorax guards were surrendering. They dropped their weapons and raised their hands. They had seen enough. They knew they could not win. Hassan moved among the wounded, both friend and enemy. A ghost operator had taken a plasma burn to the shoulder. Hassan treated him quickly and efficiently. Can you still fight? He asked. Try and stop me. Hassan allowed himself a small smile. Ghosts were stubborn. It was one of their best qualities. Bravo Team reported in. All 50 hostages secured. Ambassadors unharmed. 8 elite guards dead. 6 captured. Alpha Team status. Okonkwo asked through the radio. 150 hostages secured. 30 hostiles down. 0 friendly casualties. Outstanding work. Hold position. I am still pursuing primary target. The corridors grew darker as Okonkwo approached the engine room. He could hear Kretha's heavy breathing ahead. The warlord was scared. He should be. Humans were persistence predators. Their ancestors had chased prey across African plains for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. That instinct had never disappeared. It had only been refined. Kreth could run. Kreth could hide. But Kreth could not escape. The ghost was coming. Warlord Kreth had ruled the Vorik Syndicate for 15 years through fear. Now he understood what fear truly meant. The engine room was dark. The emergency lights had died minutes ago, plunging everything into complete blackness. Kretha's thermal vision should have given him an advantage. He could see heat signatures through walls. He could track warm bodies in total darkness. But he saw nothing. The human was out there. Kreth knew this because his two guards had stopped responding to his commands. They had been standing at the door. Then there were two soft sounds, like whispers. Then silence. I know you are there. Kreth growled into the darkness. Show yourself, human. Nothing. Kreth held his two hostages close. A male Kathrani and a female Pelori. His living shields. His bargaining chips. If you come closer, I will kill them. I will snap their necks before you can stop me. Silence. I mean it, human. Stay back. A voice came from somewhere to his left. You have 15 seconds to release them. Kreth spun toward the voice, dragging his hostages. His thermal vision still showed nothing. How was this possible? Humans were warm-blooded creatures. They should glow like torches in the dark. Your thermal masking will not save you. Kreth snarled. I will find you. I will tear you apart. 10 seconds. The voice came from a different direction now. Behind him. Kreth spun again. His hearts were pounding. His scales were slick with sweat. He had killed hundreds of enemies. He had conquered stations and ships and entire settlements. He had never felt fear like this. 5 seconds. The voice was everywhere. Above, below, left, right. Kreth could not track it. Time. Kreth felt a sharp pain in his right hand. He looked down and saw his weapon falling to the floor. His fingers would not respond. Blood was pouring from a hole in his palm. He had not even heard the shot. The hostages were pulled from his grip. He tried to hold them, but his damaged hand could not close. Strong hands guided them away from him, into the darkness where he could not follow. You are alone now, the voice said. It was close. Very close. Your guards are dead. Your ship is taken. Your hostages are free. Kreth stumbled backward until his back hit the wall. Who are you? A figure stepped out of the shadows. The human was not tall. He wore black armor that seemed to drink the light. His face was hidden behind a featureless visor. I am what your species tells stories about, the human said. I am what your children fear in the dark. I am the reason your empire will fall. Kreth lunged forward with his claws extended. 15 years of combat experience drove the attack. He was twice the human's size. He was stronger. He was faster. The human moved like smoke that Kretha's claws cut only air. Then something hit his knee. He fell. Something hit his other arm. His remaining good hand went numb. In 2 seconds, he was on the ground, completely disabled, staring up at a dark ceiling he could not see. Humans, Kreth spat. You think you are special? You are nothing. A young species from a small world. The galaxy will crush you. The human knelt beside him. The visor retracted, revealing a face. It was an ordinary face. Brown skin, dark eyes, a thin scar along the jaw. There was no anger in those eyes. No hatred. Only something worse. Patience. We have been hearing that for 60 years, the human said. We have been proving it wrong for just as long. Kreth was lifted from the ground by other humans who seemed to appear from nowhere. His arms were bound. His wounds were bandaged. He was treated with efficient care, like a package being prepared for shipping. Total operation time, 11 minutes, someone reported. All hostages secured. 0 friendly fatalities. 3 wounded, none critical. 67 hostiles eliminated. 14 captured, including primary target. Okonkwo walked through the cargo hold where the hostages were being organized for evacuation. They stared at him with wide eyes. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some simply sat in silence, unable to process what had just happened. A Concord ambassador, a tall insectoid creature, approached him. You saved us, the ambassador said. We had accepted death. We had given up hope. And then you appeared. Okonkwo nodded. That is our job. How? How did you do this? Okonkwo thought about the question. He thought about the 2 years of training he had endured. The pain, the fear, the moments when he wanted to quit. He thought about his team, who had gone through the same crucible. He thought about all the ghosts who had come before him, going back centuries. "We practiced," he said simply. The ambassador stared at him. "You practiced? Every day? For years? So that when this moment came, we would be ready." The evacuation shuttles arrived 30 minutes later. The hostages were loaded carefully, treated with kindness by the same soldiers who had killed without mercy moments before. Medina helped an elderly Pelori onto a shuttle. His legs were weak from days of captivity. She supported him gently, like he was made of glass. "Thank you," the old Pelori whispered. "Thank you." "You are welcome," Medina said. "Go home. See your family. Live your life." The old Pelori began to see our wide as the last shuttle departed. Okonkwo stood on the captured Vorik ship and watched them go. 200 lives saved. One mission complete. His daughter's birthday was in 3 days that he might actually make it. 1 week later, Advisor SYNN attended a ceremony he would never forget. Harmony Crossing had been transformed. Flags from 100 species hung from the Great Hall ceiling. Diplomats and merchants and travelers filled every seat. At the front of the hall, 12 humans stood in crisp dress uniforms. Ghost Team 7 that they looked uncomfortable. SYNN had expected warriors to enjoy praise and attention. These humans seemed to want nothing more than to disappear. The 3 rescued ambassadors spoke first. They described the terror of captivity. They described the moment when the walls exploded and shadows moved through the smoke. They described being carried to safety by soldiers who treated them with gentleness despite the violence around them. "We owe our lives to these humans," the insectoid ambassador declared. "The Concord owes them a debt that can never be repaid." Medals were given. Hands were shaken. Photographs were taken. Through it all, the ghosts remained quiet and humble. They smiled politely. They accepted the honors with grace. But SYNN could see that their minds were already elsewhere, preparing for the next mission, the next crisis, the next time they would be needed. After the ceremony, SYNN finally approached Captain Reyes. She was standing alone near a window, watching ships come and go from the station. "May I ask you something?" SYNN said. "Of course. Why are humans like this?" Reyes turned to look at him. Her expression was curious, not offended. "What do you mean? Your species is young. Your homeworld is harsh, but not unique. By all measures, you should be unremarkable. Yet you produce soldiers like these. Warriors who terrify species that have been traveling the stars for thousands of years." "What?" Reyes was quiet for a long moment. Then she gestured for SYNN to follow her to a quieter corner. "Earth was never safe," she said. "Our ancestors lived alongside predators that could tear them apart. They survived ice ages and famines and diseases that killed millions. They fought each other in wars that consumed entire continents. Many species have difficult histories. True, but most species respond to danger by becoming stronger or faster or bigger. Humans responded differently. We learned to work together. We learned to plan. We learned to be afraid, and then learned to use that fear as a tool." SYNN did not fully understand. Fear as a tool. Fear tells you that danger is coming. Most creatures run from danger or freeze. Humans learn to run toward it. We trained ourselves to channel fear into focus, into action. The old merchant Dross appeared beside them. He had been listening. "I have seen this myself," Dross said. 20 years ago, a Vorix raiding party attacked a human colony. 30 colonists against 200 pirates. The colonists should have died. What happened?" SYNN asked. "They held the raiders off for 6 days. 6 days of constant fighting. When reinforcements finally arrived, 18 colonists were still alive. 143 raiders were dead." Reyes nodded. "That colony is still there. They built a memorial to those who fell. Every year, new colonists visit it to remember." "You protect your tribe," SYNN said slowly, beginning to understand. "We protect our tribe," Reyes agreed. "And when we joined the Concord, our tribe got bigger." News spread quickly through the galaxy in the following weeks. The Vorix Syndicate, once feared across a dozen systems, dissolved within months. Warlords surrendered. Pirate fleets scattered. The mere rumor that ghosts might be deployed was enough to end conflicts before they started on Earth. Colonel Okonkwo made it home for his daughter's birthday. He watched her blow out candles on a cake while his wife leaned against his shoulder. For those few hours, he was not a ghost. He was just a father, but his uniform hung in the closet. His gear was always packed. He knew the call would come again, and when it did, he would answer. That was what ghosts did. In a distant system, a Concord diplomat sat across from representatives of a hostile species. They had been threatening war for months. Border skirmishes had killed hundreds. We demand the Concord withdraw from our territory, the hostile ambassador declared, or we will take it by force. The Concord diplomat smiled calmly. You should know that humanity has extended its protection to this sector. The hostile ambassador went very still. Humans? Yes. Any attack on Concord interests here will be answered by Terran's Special Operations Command. There was a long silence. Perhaps, the hostile ambassador said slowly, we could discuss alternative arrangements. The war ended before it began. On Harmony Crossing, Advisor SYNN finished writing in his personal journal. He had spent weeks studying humans, interviewing those who had encountered them, reading their history. He finally understood what made them special. Humans do not send their ghosts to war, he wrote. They send them to end wars. They have become the protectors of a galaxy that once looked down on them. And the galaxy has learned a simple truth. He paused, considering his final words carefully. When the ghosts arrive, the war is already over. SYNN closed his journal and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human soldiers were training, preparing, waiting for the next call. The galaxy slept peacefully because of them. And that was enough.